Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Dante Fortson here with Angelology and Demonology, the introduction. All right, so I'm going to be kicking off this series as well as continuing some other series. But originally, I had planned to put out the female angel study. But I feel that we need to do a quick introduction into the subjects of angelology and demonology before we get into that. And some of that you'll understand as we go through, because a lot of people have a lot of questions. And one thing I've noticed is people are not, in a general sense, a lot of people are not interested in studying the Bible. They just want the quick answer. Who are the Edomites? They just want the answer right then. They don't want to take the time to study from the beginning because they've already latched onto a doctrine and they've already decided in their mind who they think they are. So they only cherry pick the verses that apply to them instead of taking the time to really study everything from the foundation forward. So before we get to all this tonight with angelology and demonology, if you want to support, you can do so on patreon.com/Dante Fortson. If you want to support via Cash App, you can do that with hashtag BHITB. And if you want to support via PayPal, the link is in the description. You can always click the S in the chat for the super chat. And shout out to all the super chat supporters. I know I don't do these. I pre-record these and I do participate in the chat room, but I do want to shout out everybody that does drop super chats. I definitely appreciate it, and it is very encouraging to see that you guys do support what I do. And if you would like to support via cryptocurrency, that those wallet addresses are in the description as well. For those who cannot support financially, a share and a prayer are always appreciated. Oh, and check out HebrewSphere.com. I didn't add the HebrewSphere slide in today, just overlooked it. But go to HebrewSphere.com. It is a Black-owned social community. I think it's awesome. Like, a lot of people are sharing and stuff. It's up to 1,400 users now, sharing Black news, Black topics, everything of interest to our community. There is a new mental health group. There's a Israelite mothers group, a men's group, a women's group. There are very specific groups being created. It's not a free-for-all like Facebook. But anyway, go to HebrewSphere.com. The link is in the description. And just go take a look around and meet some people. Jump in like your family and just start, joining the conversations and getting to know people. All right, so this study right here is brought to you by As the Days of Noah Were, the Sons of God and the Coming Apocalypse. Now, this book I originally wrote in 2010. I updated it in 2012. This covers from the second edition, and I cover a lot of the stuff that we're going to cover in this series. In fact, it was my interest in an outside subject, which I'll come back to, that brought me over into angelology and demonology really, really heavy. And those of you who've been following me for a while, since like 2009 or 10, you know the story. For those that have not, you will hear some of the stories. And that's how I actually ended up in a lot of these fringe Christian groups, was because this book turned into a bestseller. And it was the second book I wrote, but it was the first book that really, really sold big, I guess you would say. So anyway, I'll come back and I'll talk about more of that stuff later, how I ended up basically in company with Steve Quayle, Michael Heiser, L.A. Marzulli, Sharon and Derek Gilbert, PID Radio, all that stuff way back in early 2010, 11, 12, 13, all up and through there. But yeah, I'll come back to that later. Second book that is brought to you by is Beyond Flesh and Blood, The Ultimate Guide to Angels and Demons. So this is another book that you want to get if you really, really, really want to learn about angels and demons in the Bible. Now, a lot of my views on Israel have changed since I wrote these two books. So the first book does mention some stuff about Israel, but my view on who Israel is has changed since I wrote that book. But anyway, these are available on barnesandnoble.com and amazon.com as well. All right, so if you haven't done so already, please hit the thumbs up button. If you've already hit the thumbs up button, make sure you subscribe. And if you have subscribed, make sure you click the notification bell so you don't miss any notifications. So a lot of people say that they don't get notifications, not necessarily on my channel, like 94% or 95% of people get the notifications. One thing that I will tell you that I read as I was going through the YouTube, the analytics, it says that if you turn off your notifications or your app notifications, you will not be notified of a show. So for those of you who are wondering why you're not receiving notifications when certain people post new content, make sure the all notifications button or bell is clicked and you will receive your notifications. All right, so let's start off with a Bible verse. And he shall send his angels with the great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Matthew 24:31. So I'm not going to get into the interpretation of verses or anything like that right now. I just want to point out that we see the angels in this instance gathering God's elect. The angels are hands-on in the process. And I think the mystery behind angels is why people are so interested in angels. What are they? Where do they come from? It's a bunch of questions we're going to answer throughout this study. The nature of angels. Now, what's interesting, and I find it to be interesting, is that angels in the Renaissance period were depicted as white, even though we go through the Bible and we see them described as having bronze skin. And I actually discovered something recently in the Bible. I won't say by accident, but I was looking for something else and I was going through the Strongs and I noticed something when in reference to angels in a couple places. I'm still chasing it down, so we'll see how that pans out. But here we see depicted a white angel and then a white devil. So that's just what the picture is. So don't hit me up saying, well, that's racist. You said white devils. This is what the picture is. This is what the artist drew. Now, we often see angels depicted like this. They're feminine, blonde haired, just like they try to make Christ look, or they look like babies, chubby babies, the cherubs. And this has nothing to do with scripture. I don't even know where Europeans got this stuff from. It's just literally made up on their part. So some of the questions we're going to answer, I'm going to talk about what we're going to talk about when it comes to angels in this series. Are angels exclusive to the Bible? A lot of people think that the Bible is the only book that contains angels. Some people are aware that the Quran contains angels. But when you start to get into other cultures, that's where the confusion seems to take place a lot. So we will have angels in one culture, but were they referred to as something else in another culture, like gods, for instance? We're going to talk about the gods of mythology. Were they actually worshiping fallen angels? Paul said that the things that the Gentiles sacrificed, they sacrificed to devils. So were the other nations completely fabricating their history, or what we would call mythology, because it contains references to supernatural beings? Or were they giving a more extensive and in-depth account of angelic activity on earth? So we're going to talk about that. So when were angels created? Some people believe angels were created during the 7 days in Genesis. Some people believe angels were created before that, which leads into the gap theory. And we're going to talk a little bit about the gap theory. So when were angels created? That's important because we're going to see in the book of Job that the sons of God shouted for joy when the foundations of the earth were laid. So were they created before the first day or during that first day? Are all angels good? And many people know the answer to this. You have Satan, he's a fallen angel. But there are lots of people out there that say, well, the angels can't be the sons of God because they disobeyed God. That has nothing to do with anything. Adam is called the son of God, and he disobeyed God, and it led to the fall of the entire humanity. So the argument that the sons of God can't be angels because the angels were bad, and so therefore they can't be God's sons, doesn't make sense. Anything created by God, the angels are a direct creation by God. So whose father would the angels have, or who would be the angels' father? It would have to be God. So we're going to talk about some of that stuff too. And we're going to talk about Rob Skiba's racist doctrine and a whole lot of stuff. People have been sending me all kind of stuff. But Rob Skiba has created an entire racist doctrine built around the sons of God. And we're going to talk about some of that. Are angels immortal? This is another question. Are angels immortal? Can angels be hurt? Are angels invincible? And some people have this idea that angels cannot be harmed physically. And I think the first movie I ever saw that really, really explored this, in my opinion, was the Prophecy series, but more specifically, the Prophecy parts 1 and 2. The angels looked like regular people. It was the first time I'd ever seen angels depicted like that in a movie. And the angels could be hurt and killed. And in the Bible, we see angels with weapons. There's a particular scenario in the book of Daniel where the angel is held up and he had to call Michael for help to get past the prince of Persia, which is clearly a supernatural entity. So what's really going on in the heavenlies? What are angels doing with weapons? Why do they have weapons? Why are they fighting? Why would another angel need help? It's a lot going on in the Bible. So what do angels look like? And the reason I put this picture up here is this is how Europeans have traditionally depicted angels. These blonde-haired, feminine-looking beings that are supposed to be warriors. And that's not what people experience. Like that guy in the flowing dress, what is this, a skirt with a pink robe and blonde hair? Like, that guy ain't scary to me. But in the Bible, people lose their ability to stand. They lose all composure. And the angels are described as having bronze or copper colored skin. And yet we see angels depicted like this. So what's really going on in the Bible, and why are all these copper colored angels appearing in the Bible? And yet we don't see a lot of depictions of copper skinned angels. And people say, oh, you're making it about skin color. No, be true to the Bible. If you say you believe the book, why do you need to change what the book says? If the book says that these angels had copper skin, then get you a copper crayon, copper paint, whatever, and just paint them copper and let the chips fall where they may. But anyway, we're going to come back to what do angels look like? Do they have wings? Are all angels described as wings? Are male angels described as having wings? Where does the idea of angels with two wings come from? We're going to talk about the two winged angels, because there's only one group of beings in the Bible that are described specifically as having two wings. We see the cherubim have 6, the seraphim have 6, and then there is another occurrence in the Bible where we see 2 wings. We'll come back to that. So what powers do angels have? People say, well, angels aren't flesh and blood. And yet we see angels manifest and eat, and they physically grab Lot, and the people thought they were men. And we see in the Bible they look like men, and we see Jacob wrestle with an angel, and we see one of the threats is to have the angel of the Lord slaughtering people. We're gonna talk about all this stuff. We see angels entering dreams, angels making people go to sleep and they won't be able to wake up. We see angels making physical objects move without having to touch them. And that's going to lead us into poltergeist and other stuff when we start talking about angels or manifestations and hauntings and stuff like that. This is why it's important to stay prayed up before we enter this, which is why I did this introduction. Part of that was to say, stay prayed up. Make sure you pray before you watch the following videos that go with this, because once you enter into this kind of study, there's a chance to open certain doors and open yourself up to certain attacks. So you want to stay heavily prayed up when you enter this subject. And I know people think it's just interesting and, I'm going to jump into it and study. Nah, stay prayed up. Trust me. Are there female angels? This is one of the references I was talking about to the 2 winged angels. There are 2 female spirits mentioned in the Bible. We're going to talk about them. Matter of fact, that's the first study is female angels. We're going to talk about female spirits in the Bible. You have this weird group of men, and I think they are an extremely weird group of men that they just argue and argue and argue that there can't possibly be female angels because of all sorts of reasons, and the Bible only names 5 angels, so therefore all the thousands and millions of angels that exist are men, because the Bible said 5 names. And then they have this weird belief that everybody in heaven is either going to be male or genderless, which is weird. Like, I don't want to be in heaven with all men for eternity. I don't. That's gay. I don't care what nobody says. And if you're gay and that's your idea of heaven, more power to you. However, that is not my idea of heaven, is hanging out with dudes forever. Like, that's not cool. So, yeah, but there's a weird group of believers that actually believe that this is what's going to happen. And they're looking forward to this. They're looking forward to like an eternity man fest. I don't get it. But yeah, we're going to talk about female spirits in the Bible. And there's going to be a lot more stuff on angels. Yeah, I don't want to jump ahead of myself because then I'm going to reveal something. So I'm going to come back to that in a minute, actually. They sacrificed unto devils, not to God, to gods whom they knew not, to new gods that came newly up, whom your fathers feared not. Deuteronomy 32:17. They sacrificed unto devils and not to God, to gods whom they knew not, to new gods that came newly up. Who are these new gods? We're going to talk about the origin of demons. And demons are always depicted as these ugly creatures in European art. And it's interesting that they're depicted so different from angels, and yet people will tell you that the fallen angels are the demons. And then there's all kind of mythology that associates around that. People say, well, the angels lost some of their powers when they fell, and yet they can't show that to you in the Bible. They'll say, well, their appearance changed when they fell, and yet the Bible does not say their appearance changed. So you have all these myths regarding demons. So are demons exclusive to the Bible? And the answer to that is no. Demons are found in multiple cultures all over the world. And people generally believe the same things about them, which makes you wonder, are all these people crazy and just making this stuff up, and they happen to come up with the same crazy stories or similar crazy stories? Or was there something major going on in the past spiritually? What are demons? Are they fallen angels? Are they something else entirely? Where did they come from? We're going to talk about that. Where do they come from? Because there are beliefs that demons were not created by God, and they are not fallen angels. Some people believe that the demons are the spirits of the dead Nephilim that drowned in Noah's flood. And so when they drowned in Noah's flood, they were unleashed on earth. Why do people believe that? Because I believe it's the book of Jubilees and the book of Enoch mention it. And why are they relevant? Because the book of Jubilees is referred to as the little Genesis. The book of Enoch is quoted by two people, at least two, maybe three in the Bible. One is an iffy reference, but two for sure quote the book of Enoch. And they were in the book of Enoch and the book of Jubilees were also found with the Dead Sea Scrolls at Qumran. So there's a lot of reason to go back and look at the story and see the origin of demons. Do demons need to possess a body? We see in the Bible, angels are able to manifest and physically appear, but every time we see demons or devils, they're talked about in a spiritual sense, and we see them inhabiting a body. And so some people will say, well, the fallen angels lost the ability to take physical form when they fell. And yet the Bible does not say that. That's Christian mythology. That's biblical mythology. Well, I wouldn't even say biblical mythology. That's church mythology. So we need to look at some of these questions, because the Bible is very specific that some have, be careful to entertain strangers, because some have entertained angels unaware. Meaning that angels can look just like regular humans, and yet we see demons able to possess a body and also appear like regular humans. But yeah, we're going to talk about the differences between angels and demons, because there are some huge differences, and we're going to do some comparisons. So where are the demons today? This is a good question. Back in the ancient past, we see all these, we used to see a lot of instances of demon possession recorded. And yet today we don't see that happening as often. And I really believe it's because a lot of these people who are really possessed, they are committed and locked away. And when they are locked away, it's out of people's eyesight. And I also believe that there's some other stuff going on. But I believe that's why we don't see demon possession today like it was talked about in the past. It's like, where did all this stuff go? Did it suddenly disappear off the earth? No, they just started hiding it away. They started hiding everything spiritual away. We know they hid the people away, the true Israelites. They were kidnapped, brought to America, that's North and South Americas, and scattered all over the world, identities erased, and they tried to hide what they did. And then they changed the name of all the biblical locations. Some people believe they're in Africa. Some people believe they're in the Middle East. But the fact is, the location names were changed regardless of where you want to go. The names were changed. And so now we see that this field of psychology or psychiatry, I'm not sure the definition nuances between the two or the differences, but they are dealing with locking this stuff away and keeping it out of the sight of the human population. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more in detail. So how do we fight against demons? What is spiritual warfare all about? Can you rebuke demons in the name of Jesus? Or do you need to go through all those exorcism rituals and rites like the Catholic Church does? How did David get the spirit to leave Saul when he played music? And what role does music play in spiritual warfare? Because there are some types of music that just sound evil, like certain metal, heavy metal or hardcore metal sounds to me sound demonic when you listen to them. And then you have other sounds that are soothing. So what role does music play in spiritual warfare? And for those of you who are hoping or thinking I'm going to get into the bashing black celebrities and accusing them of being in the Illuminati and all this other crazy stuff, I'm not even going to touch on who may or may not belong to any secret organizations. I'm just going to talk about music in a very specific sense. So there will not be any hip hop Illuminati videos coming from me. The chariots of God are 20,000, even thousands of angels. The Lord is among them as in Sinai in the holy place. Psalm 68:17. What are the chariots of God? Why does God have or need chariots? We see this reference to chariots at least two places. So we see here in Psalms 68, and we also see in the book of Kings. I want to say I don't know if it's first or second Kings. I have to go make sure on the reference of that. I'm not great at the first Kings, second Kings, first and second Samuel, first and second Chronicles. I always get those mixed up. But anyway, it is in the book of Kings where we see an angel in a chariot. The angel comes down in a whirlwind and picks up Elijah. So why do angels have chariots? What are these chariots? What does the word Merkaba mean? What is a Merkaba and how is it seen in other cultures? Is it a chariot as we think of? No. It actually, the word, there's two different words used, and we're going to talk about those words. One actually means leaper, and the other one means vehicle in a general sense. And you have to think about the time when this stuff was interpreted or translated. What kind of vehicles did they know of? They didn't know of airplanes. They didn't know of helicopters or anything like that. They knew of chariots. That was the means of transportation. So the best way to describe a angelic vehicle or a Merkaba, we're going to talk about the Merkabas. I can't wait till we get to that part. And they would describe it as the only vehicle they knew of, a chariot. And so we have this medieval sort of, I guess, vision of what we believe angels are. And that's partly due to European interpretation and partly due to historical limitations at the time, I guess, or technological limitations. That's more correct. And so we are stuck as seeing angels as these Romanesque armor-clad warriors that rode around in chariots with horses. And that's not what the Bible says. The Bible says, in one place it's translated as horses, is actually the word leapers. It doesn't give you a specific animal. It tells you there's a vehicle with leapers. Whatever the author was trying to convey, it is definitely not the idea of a chariot with horses. So anyway, we're going to keep moving. Let's talk about ancient aliens. And this ties right into ancient aliens in the church. Those leapers, those vehicles, those chariots of God that fly around. What are they? Why is ancient aliens so popular? What are ancient aliens? If you are not familiar with the term, the History Channel series will give you a very, 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 very great idea of what ancient aliens is all about. However, with that said, I do not agree with the History Channel's conclusions because they automatically conclude that everything supernatural is not real. Angels are not real. None of the stuff that happened in the past had any spiritual element to it. It was just all physical and misinterpretation. That's what they are getting at. But there's a reason that this is important. And the reason I chose the alien Jesus picture right here is because the Ancient Alien series is trying to depict the Bible in general as something alien, and more specifically, Jesus as an alien. And the reason they're doing this is because science has run into a interesting wall, and it's not being talked about. People have this belief that science was about evolution. Let's talk about the Illuminati for a second. If you go do any kind of real research on the Illuminati, you will see that the Illuminati agenda was not to recruit celebrities. It was not to recruit the rich elite. the Illuminati was founded in opposition to the Freemasons. Now, some people believe that the Illuminati and the Masons are the same thing, but the Illuminati was originally against the Masons. They may have merged later, but the Masons, who make you profess a belief in a supernatural being, doesn't have to necessarily be the God of the Bible. It could be the devil. It could be all of that, because people who believe in the Bible generally believe in the devil too. But you have to possess a belief in a supernatural creator. This was foundational to Masonic, to the Masons. Now, I believe his name is Adam Weishaupt. If you go back and study the foundings of the Illuminati, he was a scientist. He did not believe in God. He didn't want to be forced to profess a belief in God. And so therefore the Illuminati was founded. And in order to join the Illuminati, you would have to denounce all beliefs in belief in God or supernatural beings. You have to believe in logic and put logic over superstition or religion. This was the goal of the Illuminati. And so what they wanted to do is they wanted to push science and reason over religion and spirituality. So you have a conflict there. So you can't have a Freemason that's an Illuminati in the Illuminati, and you couldn't have the Illuminati that's also a Freemason, because the two beliefs were opposed. And so what the Illuminati wanted to do was infiltrate the educational system and the colleges and the high schools and start to teach logic over God. So now you see why people go off to high school and they start to be indoctrinated with evolution. And then when they get to college, they're even harder pressed to give up religion, because this was the goal of the Illuminati. So while people are looking at all the black celebrities and all these rich billionaires and saying they're Illuminati, that was never the goal of the Illuminati. Was not to infiltrate music. The goal of the Illuminati was to infiltrate schools and points of higher education to eradicate a belief in God. That's why I just laugh when I see some of these Illuminati videos. I'm like, these people, a lot of these people that are putting out these videos, they haven't done any kind of study on the Illuminati, and it's sitting right in front of their face. There is a higher chance of your college professor belonging or being a member of the Illuminati than there is of Jay-Z or Beyonce. I'm just going to put it out there, because your college professor is going along the lines of the Illuminati agenda. Understand that Jay-Z does believe in God. Some people say he's a 5%er. When you see that chain he wore a while back, people will say, oh, well, that's the Illuminati symbol and this and that. No, that was a 5% nation symbol. So you have to understand exactly what it is. So if the Illuminati says you can't believe in God and Jay-Z saying I believe in God, at most he could be a Freemason. Unless, as some people believe, the two merge, but it doesn't seem like they can merge if they have opposing ideas. And that's just my opinion on that. Until somebody can show me otherwise and give me a ledger of all these celebrity names on a list, to me, it's a lot of false witness going on. So anyway, we're going to move on from that. How are ancient aliens connected to the Bible? We're going to talk about this. Now, this idea, the Illuminati thing, to push logic over reason, ties directly into ancient aliens. I'm talking about the show now, and even the ideology that we were created by aliens, that the God of the Bible was an alien, and that all the angels we see in the Bible are actually aliens, and the devil's an alien. Because this is logical and reasonable, because there are so many planets. How could life not exist anywhere else? This has the Illuminati written all over it. This is how ancient aliens connected to the Bible. It's an attempt to preach another gospel, a gospel of rationalism over spiritualism. That's the Illuminati goal. Why is ancient aliens so popular right now? Because the world is advancing technologically and people are looking back, and we have the internet and we can gather information and say, look, these things are similar. But what's not being said by ancient astronaut theorists is what they call them, those that believe in ancient aliens. What's not being said is that there is a spiritual element that's present in every single culture. Even modern reports of happenings between beings from the sky and beings from Earth, human beings, contain a spiritual element to it. And we're going to talk about some of that. So what is alien abduction all about? Go back and read Genesis 6. Go back and read Genesis 6. Go read Matthew 24, the Olivet Discourse. Christ said, as the days of Noah were, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. Go back and read the days of Noah. Who was taking wives? Christ said they'll be marrying and giving in marriage. Who was taking wives? According to Genesis 6, it was the sons of God, the Benai Ha Elohim, or the rank of angels. If you go back to Jewish mysticism and different belief systems, concerning angels, you'll find that the Benai Ha Elohim appears on the seven. There's 7 different ranking of angels in. When I say Jewish culture, I'm not talking about us. I'm talking about them, the other people. There are 7 rankings of angels, and they concluded that the Benai Ha Elohim were all angels. Now, here's what's interesting is if you go back and do the research, and even if you watch some of my Go Ask a Pastor videos, I skim over the fact, but am not lost to the fact that a lot of the history says that the white Jews now that are inhabiting land, they were originally taught by black Jews. They had black Jewish teachers which taught them all this stuff, and they retained the knowledge and continued the practices. And so they were able to basically come in and steal our identity and appropriate our culture, which is, we know that's what they do. Tex-Mex. What is Tex-Mex? It's appropriated Mexican food. What is Olive Garden? It's appropriated Italian food, even though technically Italians, some people say the Italians are not fully European because of the Moors, and that's a whole different, thing in history. But we will see a lot of cultural appropriation going on from Europeans, and Israelite culture is just one more culture they appropriated. But yeah, that's all ties back into Genesis 6. So are alien human hybrids real? Why are people reporting alien human hybrids, sex with aliens on board these ships? Go back to Genesis 6. The key to understanding all of this is Genesis 6, where the sons of God started taking human women, and the hybrids called the Nephilim were being born. In the Greek is Gigantes. Go back and read the Greek stories of Gigantes. And the reason the Gigantes are relevant is because the LXX, or the Septuagint, which is the Greek version of the scriptures, they use the term Gigantes instead of giant. The English uses giant. The Greek uses Gigantes, but the original Hebrew uses the word Nephilim, the fallen ones. And if you read the stories of the Nephilim, they're the same as the stories of the Gigantes. And even some of the elements of giants in English or American history refer to the giants as man-eating cannibals. Where does that come from? That comes from Genesis 6. It comes partly from the book of Jasher, the book of Jubilees, and the book of Enoch. All say that these giants were cannibals. If you go back to the Bible, it says the earth eateth up the inhabitants thereof. It talks, and then just go read Genesis 6-9. The whole story of Noah. Read it in detail. Don't read it through, well, I've already made up my mind about what this means, and I'm going to try to prove it wrong. Just read it and see if it fits. There are over 500 flood stories around the world. The Native American flood story says the Great Spirit sent the flood to get rid of the giants. The book of Genesis says that the Nephilim were on the earth, and all the flesh had become corrupted. The book of Jasher says they were creating hybrids on the earth. The book of Jubilees says that when this flood happened, that the spirits became the demons. So there's a lot going on right now, right in front of our faces, and a lot of us don't know it because a lot of us were sitting in churches and the church wasn't touching this subject. So what happens after disclosure? Disclosure is the idea that the governments will tell us, yeah, aliens exist, and this is what's really going on. We're not allowed in the universe. What happens after that? What happens to belief in God and religion? The Illuminati achieved their goal because a lot of people that evidence will not, or that evidence will be too powerful for some people. They'll say, well, we see these aliens as proof right here. That must mean angels aren't real. God isn't real. And they'll say, no. All that stuff is real. It was just us. Worship us instead. Sounds like the satanic agenda from the Bible. I will be like the Most High, the 5 I wills. I will be like the Most High. Now, I'm not saying this is a 100% scenario, but this is a possible scenario that I spoke about in 2010. That alien disclosure could give rise to the Antichrist because he could be a Nephilim. There's certain verses that indicate the devil will have a son, which is why the devil is imprisoned in the bottomless pit in the book of Revelation. You ever wonder why he's bound in chains and sent to the bottomless pit in the book of Revelation? Go back and read the book of Enoch. Go read Second Peter. Go read the book of Jude. What happened to those angels in the days of Noah? They were bound in chains of darkness, and they were cast into what was the word? It's the only place it's used, not Sheol or Gehenna. That's the Hebrew. Tartarus. They were cast into Tartarus. The outer darkness is a place reserved specifically for angels. It's a place of agony. Go read the Greek mythologies and see what Tartarus is. And you say, why should I read Greek mythology? Well, ask yourself, why is there a Greek word in the Bible? Why is Tartarus in the Bible? It's only used one time. It's in 2 Peter. The word is Tartarus, used there. And it's the only time it's used. We're going to talk about it. And the only tie into it is Greek mythology. It's where the giants and some of the gods were cast as punishment. Ask yourself, why are they bound? In the Bible, it talks about angels being bound in chains that are unleashed in the rivers. Why are there angels bound in chains everywhere? Why is Satan then grabbed and bound in chains for 1,000 years? I believe it's his punishment for having a son on earth with a human woman. Again, my opinion, and we'll talk more about it as we come up to that part of the study. So if you're looking forward to the study, go ahead and click the thumbs up. If you have not clicked the thumbs up, please click the thumbs up. It helps this video rank and more people see it. And if you have clicked the thumbs up, make sure you click the subscribe button so you don't miss any of this angels and demons, spiritual warfare, angelology, demonology study, any of that stuff. And make sure you click that notification bell. So with that said, until next time, I'm out.